In the 4th year after the breakup, my daughter took my mobile phone and dialed Sean's number. Julia, didn't we agree never to contact each other again? What are you doing? Being so cheap? If you have no money, then just do what you did back then. Go sell yourself. A timid voice of my daughter came from the other end of the phone. Daddy? I'm Yo-Yo. Daddy, can you come and see me? The doctor said I'm going to die soon. In the month following my breakup with Sean, I found out that I was pregnant. After much hesitation, I still decided to have the baby. But fate played a cruel joke. Half a year ago, Yo-Yo was diagnosed with leukemia. Seeing her tiny body endure the pain of the illness, my heart ached more than being cut by a knife. Mommy, where's Daddy? Yo-Yo hurts so much. If Daddy were here, Yo-Yo wouldn't hurt so much. Yo-Yo was already 3 years old. Having grown up without a father, she was full of longing and expectation for the word father. During the half-year of her illness, she had asked me about her father many times. In recent days, as her condition worsened, she asked even more frequently. I couldn't bear to tell her the truth, so I could only force a smile to comfort her. Daddy is working far away. When Yo-Yo gets better, Daddy will come back to see you. She smiled contentedly, her small, pale face full of anticipation. Whenever I saw her like this, I couldn't help but secretly wipe my tears. Her father didn't go to work far away, but he abandoned us. Seeing me in the ward, the doctor knocked gently on the door. Yo-Yo's mother. Can I have a word with you? I nodded. Gently kissed Yo-Yo's face, played her favorite cartoon on my mobile phone for her, and then went to the doctor's office. Yo-Yo's mother. We have found a suitable bone marrow. As you know, Yo-Yo's condition is getting worse and worse. Of course, if the operation fee can be raised, the transplantation can be carried out within 3 days. Yo-Yo's suitable bone marrow had been hard to find all along, and we could only wait. This time, matching a suitable bone marrow was a rare opportunity. But the doctor told me that I had to prepare at least 400 yuan. During this half-year of treating Yo-Yo, I had almost spent all my savings. Now, suddenly having to pay 400 yuan for the operation was undoubtedly an astronomical figure for me. I dejectedly returned to the ward, but heard a familiar phone call sound inside. Julia, didn't we agree never to contact each other again? What are you doing? Being so cheap? If you have no money, then just do what you did back then. Go sell yourself. Then came Yo-Yo's timid response. Daddy? I'm Yo-Yo. Daddy, can you come and see me? I secretly heard the doctor say that I'm going to die soon. Hearing this, my head buzzed. I strode in and quickly hung up the phone. At this moment, Yo-Yo was full of tears. Her small mouth puckered up, and her nose was also red. She looked like she wanted to cry but was trying hard to hold it back. Mommy, does Daddy not want us anymore? Why did he scold Mommy? Her small voice was tinged with sobs. Even though she didn't fully understand, she knew that Sean was scolding me. I gently hugged her, but my tears couldn't help falling down. In order to avoid being noticed by her, I tried to comfort her with a calm voice. Yo-Yo, that's not Daddy. You dialed the wrong number. After soothing Yo-Yo to sleep, I glanced at the call record, then walked out and redialed Sean's phone number. At first, he refused to answer. Finally, under my repeated phone calls, he had to answer. Julia, are you fucking crazy? Besides getting a little bastard to call me Daddy, what other tricks do you have? Just play them all at once. 3 This time I couldn't hold it back and cursed directly. Sean, you fucking bastard. Yo-Yo is your daughter. She has leukemia now. The doctor said that if she doesn't have a bone marrow transplant soon, she will die. I called you because she misses her daddy so much. Sean, do you have a heart at all? By this point, I was already sobbing uncontrollably. Sean on the other end of the phone was stunned for a moment, and then sneered. My daughter? Julia. You got pregnant just once? Use your brain. If you want to lie, you should have some evidence. Okay? Do you think this is a TV drama? I tell you. If she dies, she dies. Anyway, it's not my child. Before I could refute, I heard a beautiful female voice from the other end of the phone. Sean. Who is it? He replied. A lunatic. After saying the last 4 words, he hung up the phone directly. I was extremely angry and wished I could tear him into pieces. When I was about to delete his number, I thought of the doctor's words, prepare for 100 Zara yuan within 3 days. Even though I was extremely reluctant, I dialed Sean's phone number again. However, this time I called him more than 10 times, and each time he rejected me mercilessly. Helplessly. I could only send him a message. Sean. Yo-Yo is really your daughter. If you don't believe it, you can take her for a paternity test. Also, she urgently needs an operation now. Can you lend me 400 Zara yuan? The message was sent out. Like a stone sinking into the sea. I smiled bitterly. Sean was really as ruthless as ever. For I have no father or mother and grew up in an orphanage since childhood. After becoming an adult, I left the orphanage to support myself, living a life of barely having enough to eat. Sean is a fearless young master in the Beijing social circle, having no worries about food and clothing. To people who originally had no intersection macked under the arrangement of fate. Just like the Klitsch deep lot in many novels. I was harassed by a few hooligans. And it was he who came to my rescue. Since then, this arrogant young master in the Beijing socialite circle has begun to protect me. I thought he was my salvation. But unexpectedly he turned out to be another abyss. That night, I gave myself completely to him. But when I woke up, I heard him talking on the phone on the balcony. His voice was very low. But I still heard clearly. Her? Just for fun. A low-class woman living in the slums. How could I possibly take her to heart? You lost. Remember. A bet is a bet. God knows how much I suffered. I locked myself in the bathroom and took a shower, wishing I could wash away all traces related to him. Yes. I grew up in the slums. How could I be worthy of the high and mighty young master in the Beijing socialite circle? Recalling all the past events, including the way he looked at me, none of it seemed false. But reality slapped me hard. Since then, I disappeared from his world without leaving a trace. At this time, my mobile phone vibrated again. I dried my tears and answered the call. Sean's voice rang in my ears again. Julia. Are you really that short of money? His tone was full of banter. Like the tone he used when talking on the phone on the balcony that night. My heart ached sharply. But I still replied seriously. Yes. I am very short of it. Sean. I know 400 yuan is nothing to you. I'm not asking you for it. But borrowing from you. I promise I will pay you back. He sneered again. Pay back? What do you use to pay back? That wild man doesn't want you anymore? Why don't you go sell yourself? Like you did back then? My mind buzzed. I never expected Sean to say such a thing. Sean. How can you talk like that? He on the other end of the phone was dismissive, pretending to be noble? Didn't you deceive me like this back then? 400 yuan. Spend one night with me. I was trembling with anger and gritted my teeth and cursed. You're shameless. Shameless? I don't even mind that you're dirty. But you call me shameless? Julia. When it comes to shamelessness, you are the first. Before I could continue to respond, the nurse's voice came from behind me. Yo-Yo's mother. Why are you here? Yo-Yo's condition has worsened again. Go and have a look quickly. I quickly hung up the phone and hurried to the ward. Yo-Yo's nose was bleeding non-stop. And the doctors had already begun various rescue measures. Watching her little body being tortured, I could only stand helplessly on the side, silently weeping. Fortunately, after the doctor's rescue, Yojo finally got through the danger. When seeing me, the doctor frowned tightly and reminded me again, prepare as soon as possible. The child can't last too long. 6. I clenched my mobile phone tightly and my body was tense. Yo-Yo, who had just woken up, saw me and pulled a smile at the corner of her mouth. Mom. Her little voice was soft and sweet. My nose tingled and my tears almost fell again. Yo-Yo. Mom is here. I held her hand and comforted her with a smile. Yo-Yo said again, Mom. I dreamed of Gia Gia. Gia Gia said she missed me and asked me to play with her. But I don't want to leave Mom. My tears fell uncontrollably again. Gia Gia was one of Yo-Yo's fellow patients. Because she hadn't waited for a suitable bone marrow, she passed away a week ago. Hearing her say this, I began to be afraid and promised in a trembling voice. Yo-Yo. Don't think randomly. Gia Gia has gone to a faraway place and will never come back. Yojo will go nowhere and stay with Mom. After comforting Yo-Yo, I edited a short message and sent it to Sean. I promise you. Just tonight. But I have one more condition. You come to the hospital to see Yo-Yo. Just do a good deed. After editing the message, I held my mobile phone in both hands and waited for a reply. But as time passed by, I still didn't get one. The anxiety in my heart became stronger and stronger, especially when looking at my daughter who had finally fallen asleep, but had a pale face. I was almost on the verge of collapse. Until finally, I couldn't help but take my mobile phone and walk out. I walked back and forth in the corridor while muttering, Sean. Reply to my message quickly. Sean. Please. Will you promise me? In this way, I kept waiting. But I didn't dare to contact him actively, fearing to make him angry. And also worried that he wouldn't reply to my message. It was not until my daughter's voice calling me rang that I realized that I had actually waited outside for a full hour. After entering the ward, my daughter rubbed her sleepy eyes and asked, Mom, have you been crying? Being asked by my daughter like this, the tightly stretched string in my heart almost broke. I turned my head away and explained, no. After that, I handed her the prepared warm water for her to drink. And then said to her, you stay in the room obediently first. Mom goes out to make a phone call. 7. Unsurprisingly, I dialed 3 or 4 times in a row, and all of them showed that the call could not be connected. Thinking of his bantering tone before, I couldn't help but mock myself again. Julia, you really think too highly of yourself. 4 years ago, he just regarded you as a plaything. Do you think he will take you seriously for years later? It's you who are stupid. Stupid beyond cure. It's you who have harmed Yo-Yo. If you hadn't been so determined to give birth to her back then, how could she endure such pain? It's you. All you. It should be you who deserved to die. In the end, I was sobbing uncontrollably. Slowly, I knelt on the ground, placing all my hopes on the gods. If one life could be exchanged for another, I would rather it was me who died. Although I was extremely worried. The short message had been sent out for a whole day. But still there was no response. Just like a stone dropped into the sea. During this time, the doctor issued an ultimatum and said that if I couldn't pay in time on my side, the matched bone marrow would be given to someone else. As for my daughter, she could only wait for the next chance. God knows how long I had been waiting for this chance. It was said that we could wait for the next time. But who knew when the next time would be? As a last resort, I could only ask the little nurse in charge of Yo-Yo to take care of Yo-Yo, while I went to the Shen family in person. But the reality was far crueler than I had imagined. Relying on my memories from 4 years ago, I did find the Shen family's large mansion. However, I was blocked outside by the butler. Sean's phone couldn't be reached, and the butler wouldn't let me in. Even though I called Sean's name downstairs, there was no sign of him. In desperation, I simply stayed at the entrance, just hoping to wait for Sean to appear. I even made up my mind that even if I had to abandon all my dignity, as long as he was willing to save Yo-Yo, I would do anything. I waited from day until night. Cold and hungry. Just when I thought I might not be able to wait any longer. A luxury car drove closer from a distance. Seeing the car, I immediately had a glimmer of hope. I sprang up and stood in front of the car, shouting, "Stop. Please stop." The car didn't seem to have any intention of stopping, and only came to an emergency stop when it was less than 10 centimeters away from me. Although I was half scared to death, I still looked at the person coming with great expectation. I saw the car door open and a figure slowly approaching. I happily shouted, "Mr. Shenhan, please, save our daughter." The person coming burst out laughing. "Daughter?" When I saw clearly the person in front of me, my whole body froze. The person coming was not Sean, but a young woman who was well dressed and looked very familiar. "Julia, you are really shameless. Since Sean doesn't want to see you, you come here to pester him? If I were you, I would never come out to make a fool of myself. If you are sensible, go far away right now." My mind was in a mess, and for a while I couldn't figure out who she was exactly. The only thought in my mind was to save Yurio. I started to speak like a mad person. "No. I can't leave. I won't leave until I see Sean. He can't be so heartless. Yo-Yo needs the operation fee. And only he can save her." The contempt in the woman's eyes grew stronger. Then she slowly approached and asked me distaphonially, "Operation fee? How much?" 400,000. "I just need him to lend me 400,000, and I promise I will never bother him again. I really have no other way." At the end, my tone was choked with sobs. "Please, Mrs. Shenhan, please help me contact him, okay?" Perhaps the words Mrs. Shen hoved her. The woman in front of me curled the corners of her mouth and asked faintly, "How much?" 400,000. I blurted it out and quickly added an explanation. "I can pay the interest." The woman's smile grew wider, and finally she said lightly, "I can give you 400,000, and you don't need to repay it. But I have a condition." Hearing that she would give me 400,000, it was as if I had grasped the life-saving straw. I couldn't think too much and immediately nodded. "Okay. I agree. Don't say one condition. Even 10 are okay. I am willing to give everything for my daughter. Even my life." Her eyes swept over me, and finally she said with a smile, "I want you to crawl from here to your daughter's hospital. While crawling, say that you are shameless. When you reach the destination, I will transfer 400,000 into your card on time." My whole body froze. I had thought of countless possibilities, but I had never thought that she would make such an unreasonable request. "Why?" I almost subconsciously asked this question. The woman in front of me frowned slightly. "What? Unwilling? If you are unwilling, then forget it. Anyway, Sean won't see you. I even regret that this money can be earned so easily." After that, she was about to turn around and leave. I remembered the doctor's reminder and my daughter's small body suffering from the illness, and quickly stopped her. "Mrs. Shenhan, I promise you that I will crawl from here to the hospital. 9 compared with Yo-Yo's life. Humiliation is nothing. I just don't understand what enmity there is between her and me that makes her hate me so much. But it doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that she is willing to help me, even in such a humiliating way." Fortunately, it was nightfall at this time. Moreover, the Shen family's mansion covered a large area, and was located in the wealthy area. So there were not many people coming and going, which greatly reduced my sense of humiliation. I got down on all fours, knelt on the ground and crawled forward, muttering as I crawled, "I'm shameless. I'm shameless." The woman stood beside me, looking at my actions and chuckling. "You are really cheap." Then she turned around and got into the car, driving slowly and following behind me. The rough asphalt road rubbed against my knees and palms. I always looked straight ahead and crawled firmly. It was 7 or 8 kilometers from here to the hospital. I didn't know how long it would take me to reach the destination by crawling like this. But I knew that this was my only hope. However, the weather was not on my side. After I had crawled for about 2 hours, suddenly there were flashes of lightning, thunder, and strong winds. It seemed that a heavy rain was about to come. The dark clouds and the oppressive air current made me feel more uncomfortable. But I couldn't give up. Even if my pants were torn, even if my knees were bleeding, even if I was dizzy, there was always a firm belief in my heart. As long as I keep on persevering and crawl to the hospital, Yoyo will be saved. The weather changed very quickly. In less than 10 minutes, the heavy rain poured down. Raindrops as big as beans hit my body and head. The rain began to drip down my hair, and even my vision became blurry. Because the rain washed away too quickly, I had a feeling of suffocation, barely propping up my body and wanting to take a break. The car following me then made a shrill horn sound. She was urging and also reminding me not to stop. Only by persevering did my daughter have the hope of survival. I began to feel cold all over, and my knees became numb. My whole body was crawling while moving, which had almost become a physical reflex. But I knew I couldn't stop. Once I stopped, it would mean all my previous efforts were in vain and that I had lost the only hope of saving my daughter. So I couldn't stop. But I was so tired that many times I had the idea of giving up. There was a voice that had been bewitching me all the time. It said, "It doesn't matter. Have a rest. Sleep for a while. Just a little while. Even just for a minute." Yes. Even just for a minute would be okay. It would probably take a long time from here to the hospital. If I only rested for a minute. Yo-Yo shouldn't blame me. Finally, that voice still convinced me. I froze in place, still maintaining the crawling posture, and closed my eyes to rest. When I opened my eyes again, I felt much more relaxed. The biggest difference from before was that I no longer felt cold. The shrill horn sounded again, one after another. I turned my head to look behind me, and saw that woman getting out of the car with an umbrella and walking over angrily. I wanted to tell her that I was just too tired, so I had rested for a little while. But to my surprise, I saw her walk straight through my body. At this moment, I froze in place. Looking back, I saw myself flying prostrate on the ground, motionless. 10. I was dead. I died in this heavy rain. No, I couldn't die yet. If I died, what would happen to my daughter? Realizing this, I rushed straight towards myself. I thought I could return to my body like in the movies. But in fact, I could only pass through it again and again. How could I die like this? I wanted to shout loudly to wake myself up, and also hoped that this was just a dream. But I was really dead. In despair, I knelt on the ground, looking at myself with a pale face, eyes closed and motionless. And I could never accept it. The young woman didn't seem to realize that I was already dead yet. She walked up to me and shouted with contempt, "Wake up. Stop pretending here. Do you hear me? Keep going. Listen carefully. If you don't continue, it will be regarded as giving up automatically. I won't give you a penny of that 400 yuan. Just wait to collect the body of your little bastard." As soon as she finished speaking, my body, as if in response to her, just fell down like that. The young woman was startled and leaned over to push aside my body and took a look. Then she jumped back. Then there was also a tremor in her voice. "Dead? Dead?" Soon she calmed down again, looked around, and seeing no one, said viciously, "Bitch. What bad luck. Good that you're dead. Once you're dead, no one will compete with me for Sean anymore. It's your fault. Wouldn't it be good to live a humble life with your child? Why did you have to pester Sean? Compete for Sean?" Seeing the woman drive away, I quickly chased after her. But in an instant, I had moved into the car. "Who on earth are you?" "Yo-Yo. Yo-Yo won't die. She will surely live a long life." The matching bone marrow has been found. She will be fine after the operation. Having said this, I became silent again. Without the operation fee, how could Yo-Yo have a bone marrow transplant? Yo-Yo. My daughter. Seeing the car driving in the opposite direction of the hospital, I anxiously jumped up and down beside her and shouted loudly, "Didn't we agree on 400 yuan? Even if I haven't completed it. I've completed half of it. You can't leave. At least help me go and see my daughter." But I was already a soul. She couldn't hear what I said, nor could she see my existence. I looked out of the window, and my heart was full of despair. "Sean, where are you? Could you please save our daughter?" 11. Maybe souls have abilities that ordinary people don't have. As soon as I thought so, in the blink of an eye, I had arrived beside Sean. At this moment, he was sitting in a dim private room, reclining on the sofa, looking a little tired. The man beside him teased, "Sean has flown for more than 10 hours. As soon as he landed, he came to this place. He is really full of energy. Come on. Let's have a drink." Sean picked up the wine glass beside him and drank it all in one gulp, and then coldly threw out a sentence. "Drank it. Don't fucking bother me." The several people who were originally making noise immediately quieted down a lot. Then he took out his mobile phone and his eyes lingered on the screen. I leaned over to look and found that it was exactly the short message I had sent him. At this moment, I couldn't care less. Forgetting that I was just a soul, I began to urge again. "Sean. Please. Everything I said is true. Yo-Yo urgently needs this money for the operation." But he couldn't hear me. He just stared blankly at the mobile phone. Finally, as if remembering something, he dialed my number. However, what was waiting for him was only the mechanical prompt on the other end of the phone. "Hello. The number you dialed is temporarily unanswered. Please dial later." Once, twice, 3 times, all with the same result. I was extremely impatient and hoped that he could sense something. But at this moment the door was suddenly pushed open. Several people all looked towards the door at once. And one of the young men smiled and teased, "Sean. Your sister-in-law is here." Sean frowned and sneered coldly. "Don't talk nonsense." Then he looked at the person who came in and said, "What are you doing here?" This woman was none other than the young woman who had made me crawl from the Shen family mansion to the hospital before. At this moment, she smiled gently and her voice was also soft. "I heard that you were back. So I came to see you. Drinking too much is harmful to your health. Let me take you home." As she spoke, she had already reached out to help him. But Sean spoke again, "Don't touch me. I want to stay here. It's none of your business." It could be seen that he was very irritable. To relieve the embarrassment, another person shouted, "Lena. Since you are here, why not have a drink together? Sean probably won't go back tonight." "Right. Sean? Lena?" No wonder I thought she looked a bit familiar. Now, hearing this name again, the dusty memories seemed to beat or open, and a large number of pictures flooded into my mind. 12 Sean is the young master in the Beijing elite circle, and he has no lack of pursuers. And Lena is one of them. She has a good family background, a noble origin, and is beautiful enough. After Sean completely made me fall for him, Lena came to see me. She warned me to know my place, and even said that I, living at the bottom like a bedbug, was not worthy of Sean. At that time, I loved so brightly and passionately that I couldn't listen to her words at all. I thought that love could conquer everything. She was almost driven mad by me, and finally warned me not to regret it. Later, it was the day when I heard Sean answer the phone. When I learned the truth, I finally broke down and chose to disappear. While still thinking, Lena's voice reached my ears again. I saw her reach out and snatch Sean's mobile phone. And there was a cocasse stone in her voice. "Stop looking. It must be a lie. Have you forgotten for years ago?" She told me personally that she was just playing with a playboy like you. And only I love you the most. What daughter? I think it's just a little trick she played. Sean. Forget her. Okay? Haven't you been happy these years without her? No. She was lying. I had never told her that I was just playing. Nor had I said that I regarded him as a playboy. But I was already dead. How could a dead person explain? Sean just gave Lena a deep look. Then suddenly stood up and strode out. Lena quickly chased after him and asked. Sean. Sean. Where are you going? The hospital. Hearing the word, hospital, I was almost on the verge of crying. I quickly chased after him. Yo-yo. My yo-yo. Was finally going to be saved. The car soon arrived at the hospital. Sean gave my name. And the little nurse taking care of Yo-yo immediately frowned. Are you the child's father? Before he could speak, the little nurse continued to complain. I've never seen such a cruel father like you. The child is so seriously ill. And only the mother gets up early and stays up late, taking on several jobs to earn money for treatment. Men are really no good. The little nurse seemed to want to complain more, but was stopped by the head nurse beside her. Then the head nurse said to Sean, Yo-yo's father. Yo-yo's condition is not optimistic now. She has just been sent in for rescue. We can't get in touch with the child's mother either. Fortunately, you are here. If you can find the child's mother, let her come as soon as possible. Maybe she can see the child for the last time. The last time? If a soul could faint, I would surely have fainted from the shock by now. My yo-yo. Sean stood there blankly, murmuring, does she really have leukemia? Is she really my child? The little nurse complained again, she looks exactly like you. No one would believe she's not your own. Do you still have a conscience? You scumbag? How pitiful the little girl is. And you still say such things. As she spoke, the little nurse couldn't help but her eyes turned red. Sean's body swayed slightly, and his throat bobbed. Finally, he said in a trembling voice, where is the child? I'll go and see her right now. 13 I didn't expect to see my daughter again in the intensive care unit. My daughter's small body was inserted with all kinds of tubes. Just one look made my heart take terribly. Sean also saw Yo-yo lying on the bed. At this moment, his eyes instantly turned red. I don't know if she sensed it, but Yo-yo, who had her eyes tightly closed before, slowly opened them at this time. When she saw Sean, the corners of her mouth slightly turned up and she called out with difficulty. Dad? Are you Dad? Yes. I am Dad. Sean's voice trembled even more obviously. Dad has come to see you. Dad will let the doctor cure your illness. You will be okay. Yo-yo nodded with difficulty, then closed her eyes. And at this time the instrument also made a shrill beep sound. I was shocked and choked out. Yo-yo? You can't sleep. Before I could rush towards my daughter's soft little voice came from beside me. Mom. You're back. I looked down and saw Yo-yo standing beside me. Seeing me, her little face was full of excitement. And then she threw herself tightly into my arms. Mom, where have you been? Yo-yo has been waiting for you for a long time. I moved my lips and then looked at Yo-yo lying motionless on the bed. And immediately understood. There were tears in my eyes that seemed to be about to spill out. But they were blocked there and couldn't come out no matter what. It turns out that souls don't have tears. My Yo-yo reunited with me. But in the way I least wanted to see. Sean still stood there blankly, murmuring, Dead? How could she be dead? Obviously. We had just recognized each other as father and daughter. Hearing the voice, the doctors rushed into the intensive care unit, pushed Sean out, and began rescue measures for his daughter. But it was too late. In the end, they could only bid farewell to this lovely girl with tears in their eyes. At the same time, Sean's mobile phone vibrated at this moment. It was not until the phone had vibrated for a long time that he took it out. The phone number displayed on it was mine. Before he could speak after answering it, Someone on the other end had already started talking. Hello. Are you a family member or friend of the owner of this number? The body of the owner of this number is now at the funeral parlor. If you have time, please come and claim it. Sean moved his lips. Julia is dead? 14. I didn't go with Sean to claim the body, but stayed in the hospital with my daughter. Without much thought. I could guess how horrible my body must look. Although I still had a lot of doubts in my heart. Seeing that my daughter was also dead. I didn't want to care about anything anymore. Only my daughter hugged my neck pitifully and asked, Mom, why does Dad ignore us? Even the nurse sister ignores me. She was too young to clearly understand what death really was. But I was very glad that even in death, she didn't need to be afraid because I was with her. I kissed her little face and told her, because Dad and the nurse sister can't see us. Why can't they see us? It took me a long time to make her understand what death was. After she understood in her naivete, she was a little unhappy. But soon she smiled again. Mom. Yo-Yo is not afraid at all because Yo-Yo is with Mom. Moan. I'm all right now. You don't need to worry about me bleeding a lot anymore. Look. I don't feel pain either. Her soft little voice comforted me. Every word was warm and touched my heart. Yes. This was all so good. At least she would no longer be in pain. It was just a pity that she was so young and hadn't to see the world. 15. Sean claimed the body and buried me and Yo-Yo. After this incident, he was depressed for a long time, refusing to contact the outside world and refusing any visits from others. My daughter and I depended on each other, and were not alone, just wandering aimlessly in the world. I didn't know why my daughter and I were still staying in this world. Nor did I know when we would go to the place where we should go. Until this day. Because my daughter wanted to see her father, I could only bring her to Sean again. This time, I saw Sean tightly gripping Lena's neck and questioning her. It was you. All you. It was you who deceived me back then. Saying that Xiao Yu was too timing. And you deliberately photoshopped a picture of her with another man. Lena. How could you be so vicious? If it weren't for you, she wouldn't have left without saying goodbye. If it weren't for you, she, who was already overburdened, wouldn't have died suddenly from getting wet in the rain. It's all your fault. You are a murderer. Go to hell. Lena's whole face turned red from being choked by him. She stared at him fixedly and finally laughed. Yes. It was indeed me. But are you blameless? You believed whatever I said. Which only proves that you didn't love her enough. Finally. Wasn't it also you who deliberately said that you were just playing with her to stimulate her? Their deaths were related to me. But you are also to blame. The person who should die from the beginning to the end is you. After Lena said these words in one breath, Sean's hands finally loosened. Lena, who could finally breathe, kept coughing, staring at Sean with a pair of resentful eyes. Sean laughed, and suddenly burst into tears while laughing. Yes. It was all my fault. It was me. For so many years. I didn't know she had my child. I still didn't know she had endured so much pain silently. I was stupid. Believed your words. Hated her for so many years. But was never willing to explain a word to her. You're right. The person who should die is me. After he finished speaking, he suddenly jumped onto the window. He jumped down with Lena's scream. I covered my daughter's eyes, worried that she would be frightened, and was also full of shock inside. It turned out that everything back then was just because of a photo and a lie. Lena was right. Perhaps the reason for this tragedy was simply not loving enough. In this life, the only person I felt most sorry for was my daughter. 16. My daughter and I saw Sean again. He was also very surprised to see us. Xiao Yu. You. My daughter was no longer as eager to see him as before. Instead, she hid in my arms when she saw Sean. He didn't step forward again, but knelt down in front of my daughter and me with a thud. I'm sorry. Truly sorry. I didn't know it was all Lena's scheme back then. Xiao Yu. I know you will never forgive me in this lifetime. And I won't forgive myself either. I deserve to die. I held my daughter and looked at him coldly. It's useless to say these things now. My daughter just wanted to see you one last time. I had a hunch that perhaps the day for my daughter and me to leave was not far away. At this time, my daughter quietly leaned into my ear and said, "Mom, let's go. Now that I've seen him. I don't want to see him anymore." I nodded and replied, "Okay. We will never see him again." To my surprise, Sean didn't die. He, who had jumped from the upstairs, was quickly carried away by the ambulance called by Lena. Because there was a lawn downstairs, he survived, but became a vegetable. Medically, it was called brain death. Only my daughter and I knew that Sean just didn't want to return to his own body. However, whether alive or dead, my daughter and I no longer want to have any relationship with this man. As for Lena, after Sean jumped off the building, Lena was also taken away by the police. In addition, the scene where she ordered me to crawl was exposed by the surveillance camera. And with the Shen family's continuous persecution, she was finally sentenced to 3 years in prison. In the second year after my death, my daughter and I had played almost all the facilities in the amusement park. We went to the places where she had always wanted to go when she was ill but had not been to. Just from that day on, we never saw Sean again. When the white beam of light descended from the sky, I knew it was time for us to leave. I held my daughter's hand tightly and walked towards the beam in big strides. Just as we were about to step into the beam, Sean's voice came from behind. "Xiao Yu. Yo-yo. Wait for me. Okay?" No matter how hard he ran towards my daughter and me, we walked into the beam without hesitation. If there is an afterlife, I will never want to meet him again.